The biggest consideration that we thought about when we were designing parental controls was around teen autonomy and privacy.
I'm John Starr, advisor at Thorn,
I'm Paylez Halai, Senior Manager of Partnerships at Thorn.
and this is Safe Space. So you recently introduced parental controls for ChatGPT. What sort of considerations did you walk through with those sets of controls?
The biggest consideration that we thought about when we were designing parental controls was around teen autonomy and privacy. We felt pretty strongly that, and this is reflected in how the product is created, that we didn't want to force teens into a control environment, right? We wanted them to have the ability to opt in or opt out. And everybody should be notified all the way through, right? Everybody should be open and we should, notify parents one way or the other. But we wanted to give teens the ability to have agency and control to some extent, right? And we also know that there are, every family looks different and there are, situations across the globe between families that we also want to protect teens from. So we wanted to give teens the opportunity to have agency and control. That was sort of the first thing. The second thing was around privacy. And one of the things we introduced with parental controls was this notion of parental notification when a teen is in a moment of sort of acute crisis. That is an industry first and sort of a first of its kind. And one of the big considerations and debates we had was how much do we share with a parent and how do we set that expectation correctly for teens? Those were kind of two of our big things that we thought through as we designed the product.
Can you maybe share a little bit more color in terms of the importance of considering agency and control? Like you named a little bit about some of the considerations that you're having to make on each family component is going to be different. What does that look like to you in terms of agency and control for teens?
If you force a teen into a parental control situation purely based on their age, there are lots of abuse. There's lots of potential for abuse, right? And that's hard, and that's hard to guard against. Similarly, teens of different ages have different developmental needs, right? And so whether you're 13 or 17, the needs are different. And so we didn't want to create a sort of one size fits all, we force you into this experience sort of set of parental controls, especially when we know, again, families look different, guardianship, parents, there's abuse scenarios. We really wanted to be sure that we guarded against some of that. And we were very clear with teens around what they were entering, what they were not entering, and very clear that their parent or guardian in this scenario would know if they opted to not be in that relationship or to sever that parental control relationship. So that was sort of kind of the major consideration one. And two was the difference in ages, right? And over time, we hope to get more granular here. But we knew that we had a population of 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 17-year-olds that were using our tools and that the needs would be different. And so forcing that population into a parental control scenario wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I think the parental control conversation is something that a lot of us are having, right? Whether it's in the workplace or whether it's at home. I know my family members have reached out to me as somebody that works in kind of the trust and safety space, like, help me. And I often find myself like thinking, I don't even really know how to do it properly, right? And I kind of feel like I'm well versed on the subject. But something that I always encourage them to do is take a step back and look at how are they using these products in the first place? Because that's kind of a black box. So I'm curious, from your research and your insights, can you share like how are young people interacting with AI today and how that influences your design choices?
This is a social product and a search product and a supportive product and an educational product all rolled into one. And we see all of those use cases. We see it for educational use by teens. We see, guidance around friendships and guidance around relationships and seeking guidance around navigating the world. We also see a lot of fun. Teens using image generation and teens using Sora and teens using all of these tools to create and to explore and to have fun. And so it's not a one size fits all way that teens are using these tools. It's incredibly multifaceted and different by geography. That's the other thing, is this is such a global product that it's, teens in the United States and teens around the globe are not using this in the same way. It's part of what makes my job particularly fun, is I get to think about this globally.
Yeah, I remember, when one of my very first jobs was as a youth worker. So trying to mentor and help kids under the age of 18 with social interactions and mentorship. And back then they were using BlackBerry Messenger, and it was like this big scary thing. But in hindsight, it was very simple, right? It was simple messaging, but yeah, it really resonates when you say everyone's using it differently and it really differs. So I think that's really important for us to understand when we're the ones kind of trying to provide that advice.
And listening to you both talk about the utility, the value, right,
Mhm.
that young people get out of your product, Lauren, obviously, but other products as well in the market. Like, how do we in the trust and safety space scale the level of understanding that ChatGPT is used in certain sort of ways in you mentioned educational guidance around friendship and importantly fun. How does the world kind of understand all those use cases and consider those and weigh those with controls like parental controls and kind of others? How can we bridge the divide between products in the space? Of course, there are going to be risks of misuse and other components. And also at the same time, these products and technologies create a lot of value for people, teens included. How
Mhm.
do how do we raise that level of understanding?
Admittedly, I think we can do a better job here. I also think we can do a better job, to Payless's point around supporting parents and families to help families understand how their teens are using these tools and the benefit that teens are seeing. But I think we think a lot about misuse. But the reality of the situation is the misuse is incredibly low. It is a very, very small population that misuses these tools or uses these tools in ways um, that we may not, hope for. The vast majority of users on these tools see incredible benefit. It is, I said this yesterday, to some folks internally, it's an equalizer. It's an equalizer for teen in the way that no other technology in the last, I don't know, venture to say 50, 60 years has been globally for a community like this. And one of the things I spend a lot of time thinking about is our work in education and our work in fun and in value and in creativity, because there is so much of that. And there's so much of that happening with teens around the globe. And I think if we spend a lot of time, um, not acknowledging the value, then we're just doing a disservice. And so I think, I'll take responsibility for that. We could do a better job talking about value around how we see this for teams.
This is just part of the conversation with Lauren Jonas. You can watch more highlights and catch the full Safe Space episode right here.